Hey guys, welcome to the channel. Today we'll be talking about a story of our brother Gerald, who's been a victim of betrayal. Let's get into it. Put those down, Gerald. I need to tell you something that'll change everything. I stood there in the arrivals terminal, holding a bouquet of roses I'd spent 20 minutes picking out that morning. Maria looked different, confident, glowing, the kind of glow that makes your stomach drop before your brain catches up. "Did you miss me?" I asked, hating how small my voice sounded. She laughed, not the warm laugh I fell in love with 3 years ago at that coffee shop on 5th Street. This was different, sharper. "I found a real man during my Paris trip," she said, loud enough that the couple next to us glanced over. "Someone who knows how to treat a woman, so don't get jealous, just accept it." My name is Gerald Hartwell. At least that's what everyone knows me as. I'm 34 years old, and the woman I've loved for 3 years just told me she found someone better in a city I secretly paid for her to visit. The flowers slipped from my fingers. I watched them hit the terminal floor, petals scattering across polished tile. "What? No reaction?" Maria tilted her head, designer sunglasses perched in her hair, sunglasses I'd noticed cost $800 when I tracked her Paris expenses from my laptop. "That's exactly why I need someone else. I should tell you something. 6 months ago, I overheard Maria on the phone with her friend Jessica. I was in the kitchen making dinner, pasta primavera her favorite, when her voice drifted through the apartment. "I love him, but God, I'm embarrassed," she'd said. "My friends' husbands are doctors, CEOs, and I'm with an IT guy who thinks Olive Garden is fancy." I'd stood there, wooden spoon in hand, sauce burning on the stove. "Why don't you leave?" Jessica had asked. "Because he's safe, but if I ever met someone better..." That's when I knew. That's when I started planning. "Okay," I whispered, meeting Maria's eyes in the airport. She blinked. "That's it? Just okay?" I turned and walked toward the exit. Behind me, I heard her laugh again, probably thinking I'd come crawling back by dinner. My phone was already out, thumbs moving across the screen. The message I'd drafted 3 months ago, waiting for this exact moment. "Initiate Protocol Phantom." I hit send. By the time Maria got home, Gerald Hartwell would cease to exist. And she would never, ever know who she actually married. The automatic doors slid open. Cool evening air hit my face. I didn't look back. 3 hours later, Maria's key turned in our apartment lock. I knew because I was watching through the security camera I'd installed last year, one she never knew about. Her face went from annoyed to confused to panicked in about 90 seconds. Everything was gone. My clothes, my shoes, my coffee mug still drying by the sink that morning, vanished. I'd hired a team of 12 people who cleared the place in 47 minutes while she was in the Uber from the airport. Every trace of Gerald Hartwell erased. She grabbed her phone, calling me. I watched her face as she heard the automated message. "The number you have dialed is no longer in service." Her hands were shaking now. She tried the banking app. Joint account, 0.00. Her credit cards, all declined. I'd removed myself as co-signer that morning, and without my income she thought came from a $50,000 a year IT job, she had nothing. What Maria didn't know was that her entire life had been funded by me. The promotion she got last year, I donated $200,000 to her company anonymously with one condition: promote Maria Stevens and triple her salary. The car she drove, leased under my secondary corporation, even her best friend's wedding gift, that Tiffany bracelet she'd saved up for, I'd paid for it and let her take credit. She ran to the bedroom, tearing through drawers. Then she saw it, the letter on the kitchen counter, placed exactly where she always set her keys. I'd written it at 3 a.m. 2 nights ago, sitting in a hotel room across town, my hands cramping from gripping the pen too hard. "You wanted a real man. You never knew who I actually was. Goodbye forever, Maria." Through the camera, I watched her read it 3 times. Her face crumpled, not with grief, not yet, with confusion, with the dawning realization that something was very, very wrong. She grabbed her laptop, searching for me online. My social media deleted. My LinkedIn gone. Even our wedding photos on her phone, I'd remotely corrupted them through the cloud service I controlled. Gerald Hartwell had disappeared. Completely. The law office of Morrison and Associates smelled like leather and old money. Maria sat across from Richard Morrison, one of the top divorce attorneys in the state. She'd gotten his name from Jessica, who'd gotten it from her own divorce last year, a divorce I'd also secretly paid for, helping Jessica escape an abusive marriage. Maria never knew. "I need to destroy him," Maria said, her voice tight. "He abandoned me, emptied our accounts, and vanished. I want everything." Morrison nodded, fingers flying across his keyboard. Then his typing stopped. His eyebrows drew together. "Let me pull up his information. Wait. This doesn't make sense." "What?" Maria leaned forward. "Gerald Hartwell. There's no employment record under this name, no tax returns, no social security contributions. It's like—" He looked up, confused. "It's like he doesn't exist on paper." "That's impossible. We've been married for 3 years. I knew this would happen. When I created the Gerald Hartwell identity at age 22, I'd been careful. The marriage certificate was real, filed under my legal name, which Maria had never questioned. But everything else, built on shell corporations and trusts she couldn't trace. Morrison clicked deeper, his frown intensifying. "The marriage certificate is valid, but Mrs. Hartwell, who exactly did you marry?" Maria's face went pale. I wish I could have seen her eyes in that moment. "There's something else," Morrison said slowly. "There's a sealed file here attached to his name. It requires level 5 government clearance to open. That's reserved for federal witnesses, intelligence assets, or—" He trailed off. "Or what?" "People who don't want to be found. Mrs. Hartwell, what did your husband do for a living?" "He was in IT. He worked from home, made like $50,000 a year, maybe less." "No," Morrison interrupted. "No one with a level 5 seal makes $50,000 a year. Your husband was either extremely dangerous or extremely important. Maybe both." Maria sat frozen. Through the years, she'd never asked about my past. Never wondered why I had no family photos, no childhood friends, no college roommates who stayed in touch. She'd never cared to know me. She'd only cared about what I could provide. And now, she was realizing she'd never known me at all. That night, Maria's doorbell rang at 9:47 p.m. I knew the exact time because I'd arranged it. The woman standing there wore a black suit and had credentials that made Maria's breath catch. FBI. "Mrs. Hartwell, I'm Special Agent Reeves. I need to ask you about your husband." "You know where he is?" Maria's voice cracked with desperate hope. Agent Reeves's expression didn't change. "We're hoping you do. Gerald Hartwell, if that's even his real name, was flagged in our system 8 years ago. We could never track him, until he married you." This part was true. When I was 26, I'd made a mistake. I'd helped a friend move money across borders, legally, but it had triggered alarms. The FBI had opened a file. They'd found nothing because there was nothing to find, but the flag remained. "What are you talking about?" Maria whispered. Reeves pulled out a tablet, swiping through documents. "Your husband has connections to 9 different countries, 17 shell corporations, at least 3 aliases we've confirmed. He's made large financial transactions totaling over $40 million in the past decade. I'd made those transactions, building schools in Cambodia, funding medical clinics in Peru, paying for children's cancer treatments across 6 states. Maria had no idea. "Who is he?" Maria asked. Reeves pulled out a photo. I knew which one. I'd left it for her to find. Young Gerald, age 19, standing at an international summit with world leaders. My parents had been alive then. Diplomats, killed 6 months after that photo was taken. "This was taken 15 years ago," Reeves said. "He was someone important, wealthy, connected. Then he disappeared completely at age 22. We thought he might be dead, until his marriage certificate appeared in our system 3 years ago." Maria stared at the photo. At me, younger, wearing a suit that cost more than her car, standing between a senator and an ambassador. That's not possible," she breathed. "Mrs. Hartwell, we need to know. Did your husband ever mention threats? People following him? Did he have enemies?" Maria shook her head slowly, her world crumbling with every word. Then why did he run? Reeves asked quietly. What did you do? 2 days later, Maria's phone rang. The number showed a Paris area code. She answered on the second ring. Maria, chérie, I have been thinking about you. Philippe's voice, smooth as silk. The man from Paris. The real man. I'd found Philippe through a private investigator, actor, model, professional escort when the price was right. I'd paid him $50,000 up front with another $50,000 on completion. His job was simple. Make Maria fall in love with him in 5 days. He'd done it in 3. Philippe? Maria's voice trembled. I need to ask you something. That night at the gala, when we met, who sponsored my invitation? Silence. I could almost hear Philippe's internal calculation. Tell the truth and lose the second payment, or lie and risk legal trouble. What do you mean? He asked carefully. I won that Paris trip from a random raffle at work, but someone paid for it. Who? The pause stretched. 5 seconds. 10. 15. Maria. Philippe's voice changed, accent thickening with nervousness. I was told to, how do you say, befriend you. I was paid $50,000. I heard something break in Maria's apartment through her phone's speaker, a glass maybe, or her heart finally shattering. By whoa! She screamed. I don't know his real name. We met once in a cafe in Le Marais. He showed me your photograph and said, make her feel special, make her believe she deserves better than what she has. He was very specific, very calm. He said if you fell for it, I would receive another $50,000. Fell for it? Maria's voice cracked. Maria, I am sorry, truly, but I needed the money, and he knew you would respond. He said you would because... Philippe hesitated. Because what? Because you did not love your husband. You loved the idea of something better, and he wanted proof. Through the silence, Philippe added quietly, your husband hired me to seduce you, Maria, and you made it very, very easy. The line went dead. Maria tore apart our apartment like a woman possessed. I'd expected this. In fact, I'd left clues specifically for her to find. Behind the false panel in our bedroom closet, the one I'd installed 6 months ago, mentioning it was broken so she'd never touch it, she found a locked metal box. The key was taped under our bed frame. She found it in 20 minutes. Inside the box, my journal. 3 years of entries. I'd kept it knowing that one day she might read it, that she'd need to understand. The first entry stopped her cold. June 3rd, 11 years ago. They told me today that mom and dad are dead. Car bomb. Embassy in Karachi. I'm 11 years old, and I just inherited $47 million. They're putting me in witness protection because whoever killed them might come for me next. I don't want the money. I want my parents. Maria's hands shook as she flipped pages. Entries about being shuffled between safe houses. Learning to disappear. Creating fake identities. By 16, I was managing my own wealth from behind layers of trusts and corporations. By 22, I'd created Gerald Hartwell, a normal guy, average job, quiet life. March 14th, 3 years ago. I met someone today. Coffee shop on 5th Street. She was reading Murakami and drinking a chai latte. When she smiled at me, I felt something I haven't felt since before mom and dad died. Hope. Her name is Maria. She doesn't know who I am. For the first time in 10 years, someone is seeing me. Not the money, not the legacy. Just me. Maria wiped her eyes, kept reading. November 2nd, 2 years ago. Maria's mother is sick. Cancer. Linda hasn't told Maria because she doesn't want to burden her. The medical bills are $340,000. I'm going to pay for it anonymously. Maria can never know. If she knew I had money, would she still love me the same way? April 19th, 1 year ago. Maria asked me again today why I don't have ambition. Why I'm satisfied being an IT consultant. She compared me to Jessica's husband, the surgeon with the boat. She doesn't know I own the building where she works. She doesn't know I've been funding her mother's treatments for 8 months. If she loved me for real, would any of that matter? Then, the final entry. written 2 days before the Paris trip. I'm giving her one final test. If she stays loyal, I'll tell her everything. I'll show her who I really am. We'll build a real life together, with honesty. But if she doesn't, I'll disappear, and she'll never know what she lost. Maria dropped the journal, sobbing. The line went dead. Maria went to work the next morning, desperate for something normal. Her boss, Diane Crawford, took one look at her and gestured toward her office. Maria, I need to be honest with you about your promotion last year. What about it? Maria's voice was hollow. Diane shifted uncomfortably. You didn't earn it. Not in the traditional sense. An anonymous donor gave the company $200,000 with very specific instructions. Promote Maria Stevens, triple her salary, and give her the corner office. The floor seemed to tilt beneath Maria's feet. Your performance was good, Diane added quickly. But that's not why you got promoted. Someone paid for it. Who? We never knew. The donation came through a law firm, but Maria... Diane pulled out a file. Your Paris trip, also sponsored by the same donor, and there's more. She slid documents across the desk, bank transfers, payments, all anonymous, all traced back to shell corporations. Your car lease, paid in full by the donor, your student loans, $67,000, wiped clean 18 months ago. Even the Tiffany bracelet you bought for Sarah's wedding, the charge bounced from your account. Someone covered it within an hour and made it look like you'd paid. Maria stared at the papers. Every success she'd celebrated, every accomplishment she'd been proud of, every moment she'd felt superior to Gerald because she was doing better. All of it was him. There's one more thing, Diane said quietly. Your mother's surgery, the cancer treatment. We did some digging after everything came out. The hospital received an anonymous donation of $340,000 exactly 1 day before your mother's first treatment. It covered everything. Maria remembered that day. She'd been so relieved when the hospital called to say her mother's costs were covered by a charitable foundation. She'd never questioned it, never wondered who would do such a thing. Maria, who did you marry? She didn't answer. Couldn't answer, because she was realizing, slowly and painfully, that she'd never actually married Gerald. She'd married a phantom, a ghost, a man who'd loved her so completely that he'd built her entire life, and she'd never even noticed. Worse, she'd thrown him away the moment someone shinier came along. Maria drove to her mother's house in a daze. Linda was in the garden, tending to roses, the same roses Gerald had always brought Maria. Had he been trying to tell her something, even then? Mom, did Gerald ever talk to you about money? Linda's face changed, softened, her eyes filled with tears. Oh, sweetheart, he came to me 6 months ago. 6 months. Right after Maria had told Jessica she was embarrassed by him. What did he say? Linda set down her gardening shears, wiping soil from her hands. He sat across from me at this very table, held my hand while I cried about the medical bills. I had $340,000 in debt I hadn't told you about because I didn't want you to worry. Maria's stomach dropped. He said, Linda, I'm going to pay for everything, but I need you to promise me something. I asked him why he would do such a thing. He said, Linda's voice broke. He said, because I love your daughter more than my own life, but I need to know, does she love me for me? What did you tell him? I said, of course you did, but Maria. He looked at me with such sadness. He said, then why does she keep asking when I'll make something of myself? Why does she compare me to her friends' husbands? Why does she look embarrassed when people ask what I do? Maria felt like she couldn't breathe. I didn't have an answer, Linda continued. He gave me this. She pulled out a check stub from her pocket. $340,000, paid in full. He said he was testing whether you could love a normal man. And sweetheart, Linda reached across the table, taking Maria's hand. You failed. You failed so badly. Mom, he knew what you'd do in Paris before you even left. He told me, if she stays faithful, I'll tell her everything. We'll build a real life. But if she doesn't, I'll disappear, and she'll finally understand what real love looks like. Maria put her head down on the table and wept, great, heaving sobs that shook her entire body. Because she understood now. Gerald hadn't abandoned her. She'd abandoned him first. 1,000 small ways over 3 years. Every eye roll at his modest job. Every comparison to wealthier men. Every moment she'd felt he wasn't enough. He'd loved her through all of it. And when she'd finally betrayed him completely, he'd simply let her go. The news alert came 3 days later. Maria was sitting in her apartment, the lease terminated, eviction notice on the door, when her phone exploded with notifications. Billionaire philanthropist The Phantom resurfaces after 3-year disappearance. Her hand shook as she opened the article. The photo made her drop her phone. Gerald, her Gerald, but not the Gerald she knew. Gerald Ashford, 34, heir to the Ashford dynasty fortune valued at $8.3 billion, has re-emerged after vanishing from public life 3 years ago. Ashford, who lost his parents, prominent diplomats, in a 2014 terrorist attack, inherited their estate at age 11 and spent his teenage years in witness protection. At 22, Ashford created a new identity and disappeared completely from elite circles, reportedly searching for genuine human connection. Sources confirm he married under an alias and lived as a middle-class IT consultant for 3 years. In a stunning move, Ashford has donated his entire $8.3 billion fortune to various charities, including children's hospitals, cancer research, and educational programs in developing nations. His last known message, delivered through his attorneys: "I found out what I needed to know." Maria scrolled through photos. Gerald, at charity galas, at UN conferences, shaking hands with presidents. The caption on one photo: Ashford at age 19, the youngest philanthropist to donate $10 million to global education initiatives. Another photo showed a mansion, his childhood home, worth $47 million. The man she'd mocked for thinking Olive Garden was fancy had grown up in a house with 23 bedrooms. The man she'd been embarrassed by had donated more money to charity by age 25 than most people would see in 10 lifetimes. The man she'd cheated on because he wasn't ambitious had secretly been funding her entire existence while building schools in Cambodia. Her phone buzzed. A video link from an unknown number. She clicked it. Gerald appeared on screen. The video already had 47 million views. "My name is Gerald Ashford," he said calmly. 3 years ago, I walked away from wealth to find someone who could love me without it. Maria's vision blurred with tears as she watched. I met Maria Stevens. I thought she was different. She seemed kind, genuine, unimpressed by status. I fell in love with who she was when no one was watching. His expression tightened slightly. But over time, I realized she didn't love me. She loved the idea of what a man should be: rich, powerful, impressive. When I was none of those things, or when she thought I wasn't, I became something to be embarrassed about. Maria wanted to scream at the screen, to explain, to apologize. So I tested her. I sent her to Paris, hired someone to seduce her, to see if she'd stay loyal when someone better showed interest. Gerald looked directly into the camera, into her soul. She didn't. The video continued. Gerald's face filled the screen, and Maria couldn't look away even though every word was a knife. 2 weeks before Paris, I overheard Maria tell her friend she was embarrassed by me, that her friends' husbands were doctors and CEOs while she was stuck with an IT guy who thought Olive Garden was fancy. Maria remembered that phone call. She'd been in the bedroom, thought Gerald was out grocery shopping. He must have come home early. She said I was safe, that she'd leave if she met someone better. Gerald's voice remained steady, but something flickered in his eyes. Pain. That's when I knew I needed proof, that the woman I loved, the woman I'd secretly been caring for, providing for, protecting, didn't actually love me back. I paid for her promotion, he continued, donated $200,000 to her company so she'd feel successful. I paid off her student loans, covered her mother's $340,000 cancer treatment. I even paid for the wedding gift she took credit for buying. I did all of this because I loved her, and because I wanted to know Could she love Gerald the IT guy, or did she only want Gerald the billionaire? The camera zoomed in slightly. I gave away my entire fortune, $8.3 billion, to charity, to children's hospitals, cancer research, education programs, clean water initiatives, because I realized something. Wealth doesn't matter if the person you love doesn't see your worth. Maria sobbed, her phone shaking in her hands. Maria, I hope you find your real man. I hope he gives you everything you think you need. But you already had someone who would have given you the world. You just never bothered to look closely enough to see it. The video showed Gerald standing, walking toward a door. Sunset light streaming through windows behind him. To everyone watching, don't take people for granted. Don't measure someone's worth by their bank account or job title, because you might be throwing away the best thing that ever happened to you. He paused at the door, hand on the handle, looking back one final time. Goodbye, Maria. I loved you, really loved you. But I'm gone now, and you'll never find me again. The screen went black. Maria sat in the darkness of her apartment, reading the comments flooding in. She fumbled a billionaire who would have given her everything. This is the saddest thing I've ever seen. He loved her so much, he became a different person just to see if she'd love him. She didn't deserve him. That last comment repeated thousands of times, millions. They were right. She didn't. Within 24 hours, Maria's life became a public execution. Her social media accounts, she'd foolishly posted about Paris, about meeting someone amazing, about finally being treated right, were flooded with thousands of comments. Gold digger? You destroyed a good man. Hope it was worth it. Her Instagram post from Paris, the one showing her and Philippe at a cafe, had 340,000 comments, all negative. Someone had identified Philippe, found his escort profiles, posted screenshots. The truth was everywhere. Maria's phone rang. Her boss. Maria, I'm sorry. We have to let you go. What? You can't? The anonymous donor pulled all funding when the news broke. Without that money, we're cutting positions. And Maria? Diane's voice softened with pity. Even if we weren't, we'd still have to let you go. Clients are threatening to leave if we keep you. The board voted unanimously. Jessica called next. I can't be associated with this, Maria. I'm sorry. People are asking me questions, and my husband's firm is worried about optics. One by one, friends disappeared. Her social circle evaporated. The women who'd envied her promotion, her car, her Paris trip, they now knew the truth. She'd had everything because a man she'd betrayed had loved her enough to give it to her. Philippe went on television, interviewed on a morning show. Yes, I was paid $50,000 to seduce her, he said, shameless. She fell for it immediately. By the second day she was texting him, her husband, saying she was busy with work meetings while having dinner with me. She made it easy. Maria watched from her apartment, the one she could no longer afford. The eviction notice had been updated. She had 72 hours. Her mother wouldn't answer her calls. Linda had sent one text. I told you that you never appreciated him. Now the whole world knows. Maria sat on the floor, surrounded by cardboard boxes. Everything she thought she'd earned, everything she'd been proud of, exposed as gifts from a man she'd thrown away. Her phone buzzed. Agent Reeves requesting a meeting. Maria almost didn't go, but she had nowhere else to be. Agent Reeves sat across from Maria in an anonymous conference room, between them a single envelope. Gerald left you something, Reeves said. But there are conditions. Maria's heart leapt. Maybe this was her second chance. Maybe he'd forgiven her. Reeves slid the envelope across the table. Inside is a certified check for $1 million. Maria's hands trembled as she reached for it. But, Reeves continued, her voice sharp, you cannot keep it. You have 24 hours to donate every penny to charity. If you do, the world will know you finally understood what Gerald tried to teach you. If you refuse, you get nothing, and everyone will know you chose greed over growth. Maria opened the envelope. The check was real, $1,000, more money than she'd ever seen. Why would he do this? She whispered. Reeves pulled out a letter, Gerald's handwriting.